All right, I'm gonna do some reloading today. As far as what we're doing, I'm going to reconfigure our kids' hunting load out of the 6.5 Creedmoor. What they've shot for the past several seasons is the Barnes TTSX, the 100 grain, out of the 6.5 Creedmoor, and the load was, using Ramshot Big Game. It was 46.6 grains of Ramshot Big Game, which is, that's a hot round coming out with a 100 grain bullet. I think I'll put a screenshot in, but as far as the average velocity was around 3260. And then the grouping, it grouped very well with that load, and so that's why I went with it. I went with the monolithic, the 100 grain monolithic, because our kids were younger. Now they're 2 or 3 years older, but they were younger then, and so I wanted something, a high-powered rifle that would deliver a payload and that also they could grow into, and I could load up for them. As they grow older, I could load it, up as far as weight and recoil. But that's why I went with the Barnes TTSX, the 100 grain, and we've killed several deer with it, and this has happened as far as every time. They hold, I tell them to come up the leg and hold right on the shoulder. And they've had several heart shots with that, of course, shooting off of like a bog pod, the tripod. And so they've done that. This past year, our oldest son killed an 8-point that same way. And when he shot it, we got down to the deer. He was confident he made a good shot, and based on the reaction of the deer, I wasn't. But when we got down there, no blood trail, and we ended up walking trails out almost like spokes on a wheel to try to find this deer, because he was confident in his shot. And we're walking, and it had gotten dark, and so we end up finding the deer. It's bedded down looking at us, and so I go and I dispatch the deer. Well, looking at the entry and exit hole on the deer, he had to have hit the heart, and so when I go to clean the deer out, looking at the heart, he shot the heart straight through. And it looks like the body looked like someone had shot it with a piece of rebar, and it just ice picked straight through it. Now, with that being said, I think that the 6.5 Creedmoor probably is pushing that too fast, with our Alabama deer not being, I guess, enough tissue there, or wide enough as far as target medium to give this an opportunity to expand properly. That's what I'm thinking. So I think the 6.5 Grendel would probably be an awesome platform for this 100 grain tip TSX. It's going to be lower velocity, give it a chance on our Alabama deer. And then the Creedmoor, I'm going to load it heavier now. Since the kids are a few years older, we had that happen this year. We don't want that to happen again. You want the animal to be dispatched as quickly as possible. So what I have shot traditionally out of the Grendel has been the Nosler 120 grain ballistic tip. And it's been great. It's a lot of tissue damage. Terminal performance is very quick. And so I'm going to load the 140 grain Nosler ballistic tip. And we've got some Peterson brass. We've had it for a while, but got some Peterson brass, so I'll load up some 140 grain Nosler ballistic tips. We're going to give that a shot and try to shoot 3 groups out of it with Ramshot Big Game, because we've got plenty of it. So we're going to use it with the Noslers. We're going to start at 36 and a half. We're going to go 37 and 37 and a half, just to kind of see how they do out of the Creedmoor. I feel like the 140 grain, loading it, this is not max. It's not the max load, but just by looking at it, it'll probably have us around somewhere around 2,400 feet per second, somewhere around in there. And with this heavier bullet, that's going to be great as far as term performance on Alabama deer, creating tissue damage. So we're going to load these up and kind of see what it looks like. So I'll kind of show each progression in the reloading process. We've got a Forester set of dies here. make sure when you're setting your dies up on your press, make sure you follow the directions. Some of the manufacturers have a little different setup process. This one here for the Forester, it just put your shell holder in, it says raise it to the top, and then you're going to screw your sizing die in. Screw it in until it touches the shell holder, and then it says another quarter turn once you touch the shell holder. So it'll just give it like a little cam over, but not enough to, you know, mess anything up. So that's what we got it set at. I always use Imperial sizing wax. It's just always done a good job. This is hard to do with one hand, but this Peterson brass, man, it is. I forgot how good it looks. It's almost like artwork. It just looks so good. Looks just, you know, really good quality brass is what it looks like, what it feels like too. I know a lot of people weigh them individually and kind of group them by weight and things, but that's not necessary for what I'm doing. So, but the process as far as I'll get some of this sizing wax, I'll take it, and I'll just put it right here below the shoulder, just kind of around the case. It just takes a little bit, not a lot. See if I can do it. Take a little bit here, just kind of go around the case. Oop. So that's that. I've already got this set up. Screwed it in, did a quarter turn after it touched the shell holder, and everything should be good to go. You hear it? You heard it bottom out. As far as the sizing process, and I've got this old handkerchief here. I just kind of wipe off any excess of the Imperial sizing wax there. Get it off the case. That's good to go. That one's ready to be primed. So I'm going to end up with 9 through here. But that's as far as the sizing. Make sure you follow your directions, and you just set it up properly, and it'll last you a lifetime. So, all right. So we got our brass sized. It's brand new brass. I get in the habit of sizing it anyways, even though it's brand new. And Peterson, I mean, they ship theirs in a plastic container. So, but if you were to, get brass. Let's see, here's an example. Like if you were to get some brass like this, you know, and they ship it in a bag, it could have dings and different things in it. And it may not make a difference. It may fire form itself, but at the same time, just for the sake of consistency and uniformity, I always run mine through the sizing die when they're new. So they've all been ran through the sizing die. There's different ways people do it. I still like using my Lee press here, and the way this works, you got the priming, kind of like your little priming arm here, and so when you go down on the press, as far as the handle, it's gonna make this actuate. You have a primer sitting in here, and it's gonna actually seat the primer right. Let's see. There we go. It's going to seat the primer for you. So I really like this press. I'm just using the CCI large rifle primers, the 200 primers. I would say the Peterson brass is like a premium brass. These are kind of your standard primers. You can get bench rest and different thing primers, but the deer is not going to know the difference on this, I promise you. So try to do this one-handed. Let's see. There, I got my primer in, and then you'll develop a feel for it. And then I just always check just slightly below, and that's perfect. So got one. I've got 8 more, and there's different ways to do it. I've got this RCBS primer, and I like it too, but I'm using the Lee press today to load them. So Let's see. Do one more here for you. The primer. Set it in. Right where it needs to be. So, all right, we'll keep going. All right, this is a little more tedious as far as being one-handed, but now we're charging the cases. We've primed all 9, and my process is the same every time. So I've filled up my powder trickler here. I've got powder in here to trickle up to the charge. I just got my beam scale here. To me, keep it simple. Gravity's pretty consistent, and this scale's been rock solid for me. I always zero it out, make sure it's on 0, and then I go from there, build up. And this, I think I've talked about it before, but Saturn, not only do they make really great barrels, rifle barrels, but they make some very good powder funnels that don't build up static. So I like Lee, I like their products. I've had this for a long time, but it's just the powder measure kit. It's very simple. It comes with this here, like I'm shooting Ramshot Big Game. So take this, you can slide this scale to Ramshot Big Game. It's actually the one that I think it starts on. And so I'm looking for 36, I think it was 36.5 as far as my charge weight. So you look on the scale, 31.1, 35.3. So I'm gonna go with the 2.5 powder dip, powder scoop. So 2.5, so I look down here, 2.5. So that's the one I'm gonna be using. So I'll go ahead and pull that one out. I'm done with that. Set that off to the side. And now, I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but you'll get the gist of it. I scoop the powder out, I dip it in here, I dip it on my balance here, and then it's gonna weigh, and then when I get close to the charge, I just trickle up until I hit exactly. I've already got it set. I don't know if that'll show up, but I've got it set on 36.5. So I've already got it set to what I want to, double checked it, and then I'll take a scoop of powder, and based off of the Lee loading chart, it is slightly below it, so it'll have to be, you may even, full scoop, come in, pour it here, and then trickle up to the charge I want. So that's what I'm about to do. Okay, so I threw the charge and it did move it slightly, so I need to trickle up to my 36.5. And see if I can get this a little closer. So the trickler, it just, especially with this Ramshot Big Game, I mean, it's just, every turn, it's just a few granules that are coming out. So you can be really precise with it. As precise as you'd like to be. Let's see. So just a tad more. Let's see. Okay. So we're on. So then I'm going to take my pan, come over, charge the case. And again, these Saturn funnels are so great. I mean, there's no static, nothing. Usually you'll have, powder hanging on, but there's nothing. So, and I'll just repeat this. It'll go quicker, but I'll repeat this. All right, so whenever you're setting up your bullet setting die, make sure you follow your manufacturer's directions, instructions that come with it. You're gonna take the charge case, put it in the shell holder, get your bullet. This is the 140 grain nozzle ballistic tip. Seat it in the case mouth. Let's see. Well, easier to do when you got two hands, but all right. So there's bullet ready to get loaded in the case. Whenever I seat my bullets, I just, after that initial seating, I like turn them maybe a quarter of a turn and just one more time. And then let me get the micrometer on it. Okay, so we're going for 2805, and this is sitting right at, looks like 2.794. Yep. So, so just a smidge shorter than what we were wanting. Try one more. Quarter turn. And all it is just seating the bullet. Seating the bullet down in the case. Okay. So that one is the same, 2.794 looks like. So 2 in a row. So we could have, I set this, we could have went up a little bit. I'm just gonna keep it consistent and roll with it. So, but just for visual sake, so when you're looking at bullets, projectiles, so for example, like this, let's see, in the case in, this was what the kids were shooting. So just for, you know, visual purposes, you got the, let's see, tip TSX there, the 100 grain, which is a fine bullet. And then the Nosler 140 ballistic tip. Let's see, just for looking. So you got 40 more grains of bullet. So, you know, the bullet obviously cannot get wider because of the, as far as the diameter and the cartridge and all those things. So that means you have a longer bullet when you go up in bullet weight. So I think it's gonna slow it down and perform better as far as tissue damage on those, on our Alabama deer we have. So let's get them loaded up. All right, so we're done seating all the bullets. I didn't crimp these. I don't have a crimp die for the Creedmoor, but I crimp everything as far as gas guns. I crimp all those bolt actions. I do crimp my 308, but you don't have to for bolt actions, but I like to. But I write my charge weight on the case with a Sharpie, because life happens. You may be shooting them and something happened, and you know, they get knocked over, and now you had them in order, but if I don't have them written on it, something will happen. So, but I just write, I hate to, because this Peterson brass is just so awesome looking. It just feels really well made, just like quality, like Lapua brass. To me, they're very similar as far as the feel and the look of them, the finish. But that's what the finished round looks like. We're gonna try them out. It's storming right now, so hopefully we'll get some weather that'll be conducive to testing the rounds. I'm interested to try out my theory and see how it'll work, but hopefully we'll get to shoot them pretty soon. All right, so I finished loading up the rounds, and we got a break in the weather, and I went outside, and it was pretty enough for the chronograph to work, so I went ahead and shot the rounds. And again, it's the Ramshot Big Game out of the 6.5 Creedmoor, shooting 140 grain Nosler ballistic tip. It's just a standard Savage bolt action, just a Savage axis. Looking at them, So the worst group was the 36.5. It now that shot could have been me. You know, I'm just an average shot, but I was shooting off a bog pod death grip. That's what the kids typically shoot off of. The extreme spread was 40. The standard deviation was 16, and the average velocity was 2,439 feet per second. These are 3/4 inch dots, so they're just, you know, they're just your average, just 3/4 inch dot. So they just show up real well on this bright paper. I go over to the 37. Go over to the 37 grain. It did well. It shot just a little over 1/2 inch. So, you know, 0.61 inches. 3-shot group there. Extreme spread of 14. Average 2467. Standard deviation of 6. That, you know, that's plenty good enough for what I'm doing. This here, 37.5 grains of Big Game, Ramshot Big Game. It shot 0.69 inch group. This could have been me. You know, these are nearly touching right there. And the way I do my measurements too, so I'll go outside to outside on the measurement and subtract the diameter of the bullet. So, you know, it'll be whatever that is minus 2.64. Just kind of give you center shot on it, just to, so everything's up to snuff. But string spread 13, average 2467, standard deviation of 5. And what was neat to me is the average velocity for the 37.5 charge and the 37 grain charge was the same. And so your extreme spread was just one, you know, just off by 1 feet per second. Standard deviation of 5, standard deviation of 6. So it seems like it likes this charge weight. So if I really wanted to fine tune this load, I could take either one of these charges and I could manipulate the seating depth a little bit and just see if it would bring the group together or expand it. Either way, same with this. I could play with the seating depth a little bit. I could shoot off sandbags and put them on a table and shoot off sandbags, and it may tighten the groups up even more. But both of these are plenty accurate enough. I'm near 1/2 inch on both of these, just shooting off of that tripod. Just sitting in the chair shooting off the bog pod death grip tripod. So I could shoot off sandbags and see how they look. I could shoot off the table with these, or I could play with the seating depth. And another thing I could do if I wanted to is kind of look at these, because it likes this range. I could split the difference and go, you know, 37.25. You know, just cut it in the middle and just see what that looks like, because these shot very well, and I feel like if I go under or over just a little bit in this range, that it's going to be pretty accurate. And two, I didn't adjust my sight, so I held dead center on the dot and it hit low. Again, it was sighted in for the 100 grain tip TSX. So I knew it was going to shoot a little low. And once I dial in the load, I'll adjust the sights next time. But I wanted it all to be the same. So looking at them, I may go with a 37.5 because this very well could have been me. That could have been me. Any of these could have been just human error. But this range right here seems to shoot pretty well in it. This extreme spread was 40. So that has nothing to do, you know, that's just shooting. That's just the gun and the powder combination. This extreme spread is very similar. The velocity, the average was very similar, and standard deviation was very similar. So I think right in here, I'll probably go with 37.5 and load it up and shoot it again, you know, just to kind of verify it, and it'll be good to go for deer season. So I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with this powder. It's done well. It shot the 100 grain tip TSX well, and then it turned around and it shot the 140 grain Nosler ballistic tips. It shot them very well too. So so it's a good round. I'll put in screenshots of each one of the breakdowns of the charge weights and how they look from the chronograph. I'll put that in there. But overall, I'm pleased with it. We'll go with this next season, and we'll see with the Nosler ballistic tip. And then my next item would be to load the 100 grain tip TSX and put them in the Grendel and see how they do, because I know the 120 grain Nosler ballistic tips, I know those perform really, really well in the Grendel. So I imagine the Tip TSX, the 100 grain, will do very well in the Grendel also. So, all right, that's loading for the 6.5 Creedmoor, and just a kind of a load change for our kids to use for the upcoming deer season.